Now, here's the good news, folks. You get to pick. And the easiest way for most of us is this little formula that gives me the axis of symmetry. So in my problem, what is my B value? What is my B? Negative 4. So when I do negative B, it's going to become positive 4. Over 2a. I know it's a fraction. Don't freak out. What's 2 times a half? 1. So your axis of symmetry is x equals 4. That's simple. Now, your vertex. What do you remember about your vertex? That x is the x of the vertex. Every time they match up. How do we find our y? Plug the 4 in for the x in the equation. Now remember, you're squaring the 4 only. So 4 squared is 16 times a half. That'd be 8. Minus 4 times 4, which is 16, plus 2. So I have 8 minus 16 plus 2. Negative 6. Negative 8 plus 2, negative 6. So that's your vertex. Which way does this thing open? Up. Because that number that I just circled is positive. Now, we're going to do exactly the same thing for this one. So here we go. Axis of symmetry. Negative B over 2a. I got negative 6. What about you? Which means my vertex has an x coordinate of negative 6. So how do I find the y? I plug it in. So negative 6 squared is 36. 12 times negative 6 is negative 72. And then minus 4. So that works out to be negative 40. And which way does it open? Up. Again, because that's a positive. Number 2. Which are polynomials? All right, so look at the list. Do you see any there that you would say no to? Yeah, Chad?
A.
A. And why would you say no to A? You'd be right. Why would you?
Because there's a variable in the denominator.
Exactly. So you would write for A, you would write no, X in the denominator, a variable in the denominator. All right, does anybody see any other no's? Delaney? B. And why is B a no? Negative exponent. Remember, if you say no, you have to explain why. So for B, you would say no, negative exponent. Anybody else a no? Yes.
Oh, E, because X is in the square root.
Yep, E is a no. Sam says E is a no, and he's right, because X is under the radical.
Radical in general, it's a no.
No, you can have radicals. Radicals aren't the problem. The problem is when there's an X under them. If there's a 5 under it, no problem.
Can you have a negative under a radical?
Or we would say A.
A negative under a radical? Never. That makes imaginary, remember?
It's the only thing.
So C and D are yeses.
Yeah, right.
All right, number 3. We're going to change this to vertex form by completing the square. All right, step 1.
Multiply by 4.
No. Divide by 4.
Same thing.
So we're going to divide everything by 4. All right, done. Step 2, subtract 3. Now we got to actually complete the square. Okay, so how do we do that? What do we do? Take half of 2. What's half of 2? 1, and square it. 1. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. One of the biggest mistakes that's made is you forget to add to both sides. Make sure you add it to both sides. This is your perfect square. What is it? X minus 1. And this is just y over 4 minus 2. Now we got to start putting things back, right? So we'll add the 2. And after you get your 2 moved back over, you are going to, what? We'll multiply by 4. And when you multiply by 4, you multiply the parentheses by 4 and the number by 4. So you have 4x minus 1 squared plus 8.
Wait, is that negative 4?
So it's multiplying by this 4, so it's just 4. Okay, number 4. Write the equation of the linear function that contains these 2 points. Now, if you miss this, you deserve to be smacked. Linear function. What pops into your head? A line. What's a line look like in terms of an equation? Y equals mx plus b. So you are shooting for y equals mx plus b. So what do we need to figure out? M, slope. 9 minus 3 over 2 minus 1. I got 6. If you do that upside down, you miss half credit. I'm not messing around with it. Slope is y over x. Now what? You're partway there. Now what? Pick one of the points. I'll just use this one because the numbers are smaller. And I plug 3 in for y and 1 in for x. And 6 in for m, right? So 3 equals 6 times 1 plus b. B is negative 3. That's not the answer. The answer is the equation. So what's your equation? M is 6, B is negative 3, y equals 6x minus 3. Now the next one. The next one. This says, write the equation of the quadratic function. So you are shooting for a squared equation. This is the kind of equation you want in problem number 5. Okay? Now, when you look at an equation in this format, you're supposed to be able to tell me the vertex. Where's the vertex of this?
1, 8.
1, 8. So do it backwards. Here's the vertex. The equation is going to look like this. What goes in these blanks if the vertex is -1, -2?
Plus 1
X
plus 2.
plus 1 and y, or not y, but -2. That would give me a vertex of -1, -2, which is what my problem said. Now you're used to this. We've talked about it several times. This number is missing. How do I find that missing number? Plug in the other point they gave you. They gave you that for a reason. So you put in 3 for the y and 2 for the x. And you should be able to solve that. 2 plus 1 squared. Do not subtract the 9 and the 2. You need to add the 2 over to this side and then divide by 9. So into the answer blank, you are going to write this. Now, as luck would have it, number 6 is almost the same kind of problem. You are writing an equation, but it's not a parabola. It's this squiggly thing. So who remembers our strategy when we have to write the equation of one of these squiggles? How do we start? What do we start with?
Find the points.
We start with some parentheses, right? And the parentheses come from the dots on the x-axis. So I have a dot at -2. So what will my parentheses be? X plus 2. I have a dot at -1. X plus 1. I have a dot at 2. X minus 2. There you go. Now, before you do anything else, look carefully at your picture. Are you bouncing off anything? In other words, are any of these going to be square?
X plus 2.
Which one are you bouncing off? X plus 1 is bouncing. Look at the picture. See how it bounces? The other two don't. Now, how do I find that A? It's the same A I had over here. How do I find it?
Put the 2 points that you get at the top in for the.
Put that random point, 1, 2. Put 2 in for y and 1 in for x. The point was 1, 2. So 2 went in for y and 1 went in for all the x's. So 1 plus 2. Now be careful here. 1 plus 1 is 2, but it's being squared, so it has to be 4. I got -1/6 for A. Anybody getting there? Getting that?
Is that what you put for the answer?
No. What you put for the answer, Megan, is this equation with the -1/6 put right there in front of it. That's the answer to the question.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow, okay. So,
Nope. No. The order of the parentheses does not matter. The height of a ball above the ground is given by this equation. Here's the height. Here's the time. Find the maximum height and the time it was reached. All right, now in order to do this problem, you need to just stop a minute. This equation, I know it uses different letters, but it's got a squared in it. It's a squared equation. So what shape is it if it's a squared parabola? There's a negative in front of it.
Upside down.
That means it's an upside down parabola. So when somebody asks you about the maximum, aren't they talking about the highest point?
Yep.
Which is otherwise known as the vertex. Think about the first problems we did. We found our vertex by simply doing this. Right? So here we go. For this equation, negative b would be negative 48. And 2a would be negative 32. And I'll reduce that for you, it's 1.5. So the vertex is at 1.5 comma something.
Wait, do we just ignore the negative from the 16?
No, it's negative b over 2a, they cancel.
Oh, right.
Now how do I find the something? My vertex is 1.5 comma something. How do I find that? I'm going to plug it in. So I plug in 1.5. 1.5 squared times negative 16 plus 48 times 1.5 plus 2. It works out to be 38. What does this 1.5 represent and what does the 38 represent?
Time and height.
Time and height. So when does it reach its highest? 1.5 seconds.
How do you know
What?
which one is that?
What is its highest? 38 feet or whatever the unit is. Megan, the equation tells you this is the time. Megan, this is the time. That's like your X. This is your Y. So the time is 1.5 and the height is 38. X and Y. All right, now we're going to synthetically divide. I got tricky. Do you catch it?
Yep,
Oh,
this is
you put
it.
0 into the not.
So 2, negative 8, 0, 9, negative 2. Everybody okay with that? I just automatically stuck a 1 out here. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
So here we go. Now you got to fill in a quotient and a remainder. What's my quotient?
2x cubed.
2x to the third. Remember, the original was to the fourth, so we reduce it by 1. So it's 2x to the third
Minus 6x
minus
squared.
6x squared
Minus 6x.
minus 6x plus 3.
Yep.
And then for the remainder, you can just put 1.
Wait, how do you know the remainder? The left.
That's the remainder. Whatever's in that spot is the remainder.
It's not 1 over x.
It can be 1 over x plus 1, that's fine. Actually, x minus 1. Okay. Number 9. list the possible rational roots, and then find the roots.
1.
So the PRRs are plus or minus 2 and 1. Factors of 2 over factors of 1. Now it says find them. So let's see. 2 works, you think?
Yeah.
She don't.
Well, let's give it a shot. It does work. Good job. It says find the roots. One of our roots is 2. We're not done. There's more, but that's the beginning. You guessed 2 and you got it right. How do I find the other ones?
Plug it in.
I don't plug it in.
Plug X
To find the other ones, I look right here, kids. Right?
Yes.
And that's x squared plus 9x plus 1. Uh-oh, it doesn't
It isn't.
factor. So I use the quadratic formula. Maya, you are all over this today. Good job. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I get negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 77 divided by 2.
So when you put in a quadratic formula, you use what you got as an answer instead of the normal equation?
Well, you can't use the original, it's not quadratic. So this is all we have to use here. So what do you put in the answer blank? The original 2 and this.
The entire thing.
That's the answer to the question.
Those are the 2 roots.
Aaron, was your hand up? All right, number 10. Come on, we gotta get this done. Number 10. X plus 2 is one factor. Find the others. So what are we gonna do?
So use synthetic division.
Use synthetic division, very good. And we'll divide out negative 2. By golly, it worked, didn't it?
Wait, why did you put, I'm so confused why you put negative 2?
Because the factor is x plus 2.
But on number 8, you put oh, because it's negative. Got it.
Alright, so
Alright, so here we go. What do I do next? X squared plus 10x plus 21. This one does factor.
right.
X plus 7, x plus 3. And that is actually the answer. Because the question says, find the other factors. So those are factors. Chandler?
So we wouldn't